So this is a video that I've been not wanting to really make because I don't know how to talk about it, but I think we're going to talk about it, and I'm actually going to react to a CoffeeZilla video live on recording. I'm going to try not to react to the whole thing. I'm going to just do his reaction part, and we'll talk about it in just a second. But I just want to say, this has been fucking wild. So Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder of FTX, excuse me, which is a huge cryptocurrency scandal, or cryptocurrency company, was just charged with fraud. And this is insane because he's been telling people for years, or like weeks, it's been feeling like years because it's been going on for so long, but for actual weeks, that, you know, he didn't commit fraud, that nobody was being treated differently, that another company wasn't actually taking money from people and then using it to fund FTX, all kinds of just insane shit. But so according to this article, Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder and former CEO of FTX and Alameda Research, could face up to 115 years in prison if convicted on all accounts against him in a federal indictment on Tuesday morning. The charges against him include wire fraud conspiracy, and conspiracy to commit money laundering, each carrying a maximum prison sentence of 20 years, according to the press release. The crypto trading platform founder could also skip to 5 years in prison for each count of conspiracy to commit the commodities fraud, securities fraud, and the conspiracy to defraud the United States and commit campaign finance violations if convicted. So basically, to give you like the Cliff Notes version of it, Sam Bankman-Fried is one of the dumbest people I've ever heard of in my life. He's a billionaire who got rich because his parents were rich, and then he put $10,000 into Bitcoin, and then would buy $11,000 worth of it, and over time just became a billionaire, I guess. I don't know the full details on it. There's tons of videos out there if you really want to know about it or care about it at all. But he was denied bail, and just been absolutely insane. Sorry, I'm laughing really hard. The best part about this is in this video right here by CoffeeZilla. CoffeeZilla actually managed to get Sam Bankman-Fried to admit to committing fraud. So I'm gonna react to a couple pieces of this, and we'll see where this goes. I just wanted to talk about this because I felt like that this was an absolutely wild ride. He was arrested in the Bahamas, apparently, and it's just been wild. So let's react to it really quick.
We're talking about a separation of funds. So those funds should be in a different place, in a different wallet than everybody else.
So just to clarify where we're at for right now, Sam Bankman-Fried is on the phone with CoffeeZilla, or CoffeeZilla is on the phone with Sam Bankman-Fried, either way. And Sam Bankman-Fried is basically trying to say that the money that he had through Alameda was not treated differently through anything. So he was basically just trying to say that everyone was treated the same, but according to his terms of service, as we'll find out in a few minutes, there is no one-to-one for each person. If these people want to put their money in and just have it sit there and let it grow interest over time, that money cannot be moved legally, otherwise that is fraud. And he admitted to some pretty wild shit. So let's take a look at it real quick.
We talked about servicing billions of dollars of withdrawals. Has nothing to do with those specific digital assets, because that's just first come, first serve, whoever pulled out first. We're talking about people who never agreed to have their funds loaned out, who never agreed to have their funds put on margin. They should have, according to your terms of service, one-to-one backing. It should all still be
it should all be
in
there,
some bucket somewhere. And are you confident today, as the CEO of FTX, this has nothing to do with Alameda, are you confident today to say that those are absolutely real and they exist and they're present, people are backed one-to-one on client digital assets?
I wonder if what does it say?
I think, and again, I'm just taking a step.
Oh my god, bro. So SBF always does this to try and avoid an actual answer. He always says, I think, or and it's so frustrating to listen to, but oh my god.
Up here, but I think what happened
maybe it got disappeared.
If you look at especially a lot of the withdrawals that happened, those withdrawals were not necessarily only coming from people who never used margin trading or futures or staking or anything else. Those weren't just withdrawals from people who were keeping one-to-one backed or were sort of just keeping them as pure spot balances. And it was omnibus wallets, between the various categories. And so I think that the answer to your question is that
I don't think he hears what he's saying.
Assets were withdrawn by people who had balances on the exchange, potentially in the few days prior to the collapse. And and if you wanted to think about it this way, it could be that that happened, and then when
Bro, he's not listening to
when
what
the
he's
collapse
saying.
sort of completed, the that effectively meant that there was, if you wanted to put it this way, like fungibility created during those withdrawals between assets for people who had and had not.
He's such a bumbling idiot. He doesn't realize what he's saying here, that he's actually admitting to fraud. He's explaining that during bankruptcy, all the money just disappeared and he has no idea where it went. It's fucking wild to me. How does he not realize what he's saying?
Been using.
But that means that there is no separation of funds. If there's fungibility between two different buckets, there are no buckets. It's just one bucket. Everyone's taking out of the bucket, which means substantially anyone who had your terms of service with digital assets wasn't actually subject to that terms of service. They were subject to the same terms of service of your margin trading, right? Which is your more risky product. So you subjected everyone to the higher risk product because fundamentally, when it came down to it, you're saying there's fungibility. It's $1 here, $1 there. Everyone can take out $1 as fast as they want. Don't you see that as like defrauding your customers, the people who trusted you to just say, hey,
no, it's not defrauding.
This is not going to go anywhere except for we're not investing your assets. If I can exchange one-to-one and I'm the one who put risky stuff on with risky assets with risky terms of service, I can take the money that someone who didn't sign up to those same risky terms didn't agree to. Isn't that fraud?
So
yes, by definition.
I'm specifically talking about what happened in the days immediately.
It's still fraud. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you think, what you're talking about. It's still fraud.
Period. And during that period, I think we may have allowed, just generalized withdrawals. I think that was.
No, it's still fraud.
If you're saying that we should have held up withdrawals for.
I'm not a lawyer, but yeah, no, it still sounds like fraud. He's talking about how they may or may not have. He can't give a concise answer because why the fuck would he be able to? But they may or may not have had possibly, maybe, sort of somebody withdraw. It's still fraud. If you are going bankrupt and your terms of service says that money will stay there, it's still fraud. The money shouldn't be leaving, or you should get a full refund, which nobody got.
For everyone who had an open futures position, for clawback potential or something like that. I don't know. Maybe that would have been the right thing to do. I hear where
maybe
you're
that would have been the right thing to do. It would have been the right thing to do. What?
Felt, at the time, that we wanted to treat customers equally. It was
you can't treat them
but
equally.
they had agreed to different things, so you can't treat them equally.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like this is the whole problem of the story of FTX and Alameda is all the funds were being commingled. Isn't this just another story of commingling funds, except this is now FTX, which you can't pass the blame to Alameda anymore. This is your company.
I can't believe he admitted
your funds
that
you are treating all the clients the same when they clearly signed up to different terms of service.
It's fucking wild.
So I just want to respond to that, and please, I completely respect your question, but you have monopolized all of these discussions.
Bro, what a fucking pivot. I don't like that you said that I was committing fraud, so why do you admit to taking the entire conversation and holding it in? Dude, no, you just admitted to fraud. Shut up. Stop talking, Sam.
You need to let others speak, and you need to respond to what I'm saying and not grandstand as much here. I completely understand where you're coming from, but to answer your question,
CoffeeZilla is dying laughing, bro. It's so good.
Process withdrawals as we normally do.
He's trying so hard to hold it in.
We couldn't anymore, at which point we shut them off, and it was the case that, like, at that point,
God, it's so good.
There was a big liquidity hole. That's what happened.
So then, if there was, why didn't they get money refunded, huh?
I think that, like, we should have been spending those days frantically trying to code up a new withdrawal process.
Yes.
I disagree with you, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, sure. I think that's fine. I mean, it's not about coding up a new withdrawal process. It's about treating your client assets the way you told them they'd be treated, right? It's a very different thing completely. But anyways, I'll stop grandstanding for Sam. Thanks, guys.
Coffee's so good, bro. Bro, he's so good. What a good video. This part of the video is so good.
Woo! Oh my gosh. Wow. We got the call out. We got the shout out. All right. You can probably tell I was pretty excited about that because I finally
So
got
good,
what
bro.
I was looking for. A straight answer on the problem of...
This is what everyone was looking for. All these like big media companies have been sucking SBF's dick and talking about how he's like the coolest billionaire ever or whatever. Dude, no, he doesn't give a straight answer at all to anything. He's like, I don't know. Mayhaps they should have maybe listened better. Maybe, I don't know. Dude was wild.
funds, right? Sam explicitly says that FTX was not separating funds. They were allowing generalized withdrawals. The dollars were fungible from different buckets. You can't do that. We finally dodged all the BS about margin trading, about Alameda wires. We finally got to the heart of it, which is that there are no funds left over for the people who just should have had their funds separated because they never separated them from the beginning. They were always seemingly commingled. And although Sam wouldn't necessarily agree that they were always commingled, the proof is in the pudding. FTX owes billions of dollars that
so much
they
money.
do
This is
not
one of the
have,
largest crypto schemes
because of how
ever.
they allowed withdrawals. To give you kind of a regular finance analogy about why this is so cataclysmically bad, and in my opinion, fraud. Imagine you banked at JP Morgan Chase, right? And you have your money in the savings account part. Well, then you find out that they actually had this risky hedge fund. And you know what? They actually kind of blew up. In fact, they blew up so badly that JP Morgan Chase, it's all shutting down. But when you go to the bank to withdraw your money, you find out that instead of keeping your money safely in your savings account, they had allowed the people in the hedge fund business to just withdraw it, you know, first come, first serve, right? They treated all clients the same, according to them. Well, you say, well, no, that's fraud because you signed up to very
literally by
different
definition
terms
fraud.
of service than the guy who knew he was going to be like, you know, in this hedge fund, right? He had a different level of risk.
There's nothing else to call it. It is
and if
fraud,
you just throw
by
all the money in
definition.
one pot, the terms of service are meaningless, right? You're exposed to the same level of risk as the guy who took on huge risk. And that's fundamentally what happened at FTX. That's fraud.
It's fraud.
They told people their money was safe, and ultimately they just subjected everyone to the same risk as like the day trading degenerate gambler on 100x leverage. And I really found the last thing Sam told me like so telling.
To answer your question, I didn't make a decision there. I just process withdrawals as we normally do. That's what happened. If you want to judge that process and think that like we should have been spending those days frantically trying to put up a new withdrawal process, I disagree with you, but I understand where you're coming from.
This is so interesting because no, of course I don't think you should be coding up a new withdrawal process while you're going bankrupt. But if throwing all your client funds in a pool and letting the first come, first serve get the money, that's the wrong process to begin with. Your process was fraudulent from the start. It should have never been your process. Your process should have been what you promised clients, which is, of course, what I told Sam. And although I think Sam's probably guilty of a lot more than we covered here, I really wanted to get to this minimum viable fraud case, and I think we did get it. I mean, there is no sort of wiggling around the fact that he was the CEO of FTX, and all of this stuff that was bad that we proved happened at FTX. You don't have to invoke Alameda to get to this, so you can't say he didn't know because he definitely did know, and he says he knew. So the last thing I'm going to close on, and I thought it was the funniest part, was his little outburst at the end about me monopolizing his time.
So I just want to respond to that. And
yeah, he kind of whined like a big old baby here.
You have monopolized all of these discussions, CoffeeZilla. You need to let others speak, and you need to respond to what I'm saying and not grandstand as much here.
And I thought it was notable for two reasons. One, he hasn't lost his cool once in any interview. This is the first time I heard him like really crack. And I thought that was interesting. But I also thought it was interesting because it's just not true. It's totally wrong. I've talked to Sam for, I think, 30 minutes across 3 interviews total, like in total. And for context, he gave the New York Times an hour. He gave George Stephanopoulos 2 hours. I think out of everyone he's talked to,
he's been getting
the major interviews, I've talked to him the least. So if anything, I'm efficient with my time. That's all I'm going to say. And speaking of being efficient with my time, this video is over. Lock this man up, and I'll see you later. Thanks for watching.
But yeah, no, I just wanted to talk about this, and it's pretty much all I got. Take it easy.